Okay, as I knock all my Godzillas over. So, just got out of a session with Laura today, and yesterday I was talking about, I did my little video where I went to Crystal Cove, a moment of peace. And when I got home, my dad almost destroyed it. I won't go into detail other than he took a swing at me and missed because I moved, but he's got Parkinson's, so he can't really control his arms and legs the way he wants to. So it was a really uncoordinated swing, but he tried to smack me across the face, and because he was not able to work the phone and I was trying to take it from him to hit the call button because it was ringing, and he tried to hit me, and Tommy, the IHSS worker, saw it. And so afterward, because I screamed in my dad's face, go to hell, because the PTSD came online. My trauma part came out. My minus Godzilla came out. And I went to my room and slammed the door, and I heard Tommy tell my dad, you don't treat your baby girl like that. Because the phone, the answering machine came on because my dad couldn't figure out the phone. And I'm like, whatever. But Tommy tapped on my door and he said, your dad wants to talk to you. And my dad apologized. But here's the thing. He only did it because there was a witness to his behavior. And so I kind of accepted it without accepting it, because I didn't say, oh, it's okay, your apology accepted. I just said, yeah, let's move on. Let's put it behind us. And my dad started asking me questions about my time at Crystal Cove, trying to make friendly sounding conversation. I know that he was trying to just create this image that he's actually a really nice person. And whatever, I went with it. And, I carried on the conversation until I just need to get out of the room because I was still super triggered. And I did my self-care, I did my deep breathing, my stop exercise. And when Tommy had to go, he left at about 8 o'clock. And, excuse me, throat's dry because of the air conditioner. But when Tommy was leaving, I told him, hey, I'm sorry you saw what happened today. Because he was startled by my dad trying to slap me, but he was really startled when I turned around and yelled, go to hell, at my dad. And I told him, I'm sorry you saw that. I have PTSD and I got highly triggered, and that's what I'm like when I'm triggered. And I don't like it when I'm triggered, but that's what happened. And Tommy is like, you have PTSD? And I'm like, he wasn't exactly a shining dad. And also, I've got trauma from witnessing his medical disasters and just from the caregiving that I've had to do with no escape and no freedom for 13 years. And and Tommy's like, oh, I gotcha. And he gave me one of his bear hugs, which is he'll pick me up and hug me. So he'll pick me up off the ground and hug me because he's a big guy. I'm like a paperclip to him. And because he's like 6'3", 280 pounds, and I'm 80 pounds, soaking wet. So, so he's got 200 pounds on me, so he can pick me up like nothing. He can pick my dad up like nothing, and my dad's like 160 pounds. But my dad is 6'5", and that's why it's difficult to manage him because he's so big. He's just such a large, tall man that it's unwieldy to maneuver him unless you are really strong or have really good balance and all that. But anyway, when Tommy was hugging me, and I don't want anybody to get any idea of it being a sexual thing. It's not. It's like having a dad pick me up and hug me. Okay. But when he had me and my head was over his shoulder, he's like, you be a tough girl, okay? You be a tough girl. You're a tough girl, okay? You be a tough girl. You can handle this. And it was like a pep talk that I really needed. And Tommy's a soft-spoken guy, so, I could really hear what he was saying. And he put me down, and he's like, you're going to be all right. And it's like he took care of me, kind of reinforced my self-care. And I was able to go to bed that night not feeling like complete shit, but here's the funny part is that for a lot of the night I was really ragey, like just outbursts of anger. And part of it was because I'd been triggered and I was trying to settle down my trauma part because he was upset. And then I went to the bathroom and found out I'm spotting. So, thank you, perimenopause. Part of it was hormonal. So, my temper is still very click boom because that's where my hormones have decided to go. My brain will pick an emotion and get stuck in it for most of the duration of my period. Last month it was kind of a calmness, but this month it's rage, which is really hard. And if you're not a menstruating person who is going through perimenopause, like in your 40s, it's really hard to explain. But because it's, I have PMDD, and the sertraline helps with the mood aspects of it, but the other, like the physical, the fatigue, the muscle aches and stuff, it doesn't fix that. But I know it's hormones now, so it's like, okay. So I just roll with it. But I did a naughty thing when I was at Crystal Cove because I did take a few shells, but only 3 because I didn't want to take a whole bunch. But I'll show you one. Well, actually, I think I can show you all of them. But they're all just mussel shells, but there's this one. This mussel shell. And this mussel shell. Show you the iridescence. And then I got a big one. So, still smells like the beach. Kind of stinky, but not in a bad way. It just smells like salt. But yeah, this is the big one. I only took 3 because you're really not supposed to, but I just wanted a memory of that day because it was so peaceful, and I'm still kind of mad that my dad kind of wrecked that for me because it was within minutes of me coming home that he started being a shit. But what can you expect? So, and another thing I found is a book, and you can find it online on the Internet Archive, but you can just put it in a search engine and it should come up. It's called Why Does He Do That by Lundy Bancroft, LundyBancroft. And this is a person, a therapist, who has worked with abusive men. The book is geared more towards like abused women of abusive spouses, boyfriends, whatever. But the author also emphasizes that these things can also happen in queer relationships, gay, lesbian, whatever relationships. And that when it comes to being abusive, that men have all the power. And while there are abusive women, it's more likely men. So that's why it's more likely men abusing women. So that's why the book is geared more towards women with abusive boyfriends, spouses. But there are a lot of things that apply to my dad that help me understand how he ticks, and that the problem is not me. It's his own entitlement, and it's his own things of what he thinks he deserves versus what he thinks I deserve. And it's about what he thinks I deserve and what he thinks I don't deserve. Ugh, grammar. What he thinks I don't deserve, and in his mind, he's the demand man. So when you get to that part, remember, I said demand man. That's my dad. Just, for a spouse, there's things about sex in there that don't apply to my dad because it's not a sexual relationship. He's my parent. But everything else, you could put his picture in that book and it would be him, except for the sexual part. But, it will give you very much good insight into the thinking patterns and beliefs that abusers hold, because this person has studied them and talked to them and listened to their victims as well. So this person gets both sides of the story and has the full picture of how abuse works, how it starts, how it escalates, the types of abusers that you might encounter, as a woman or as a romantic partner to someone if it's a queer relationship. It was very insightful. I'm still reading it, but my dad is the demand man. But I do warn you that there are descriptions of things in there that may be a bit triggering if you're an abuse survivor. So go into it, with self-care available if you think it will be very triggering for you and take you places in your mind you don't want to go. Because I want you to be safe, but I want you to understand these abusers too. I want you to understand how this shit works because it can help you fight back. Because really the best way to fight back is to get away, but some of us are trapped and can't. I'm having to wait until I can get away, but the sooner you can get out, the better. If you're in a relationship where you're able to leave, like if you're a disabled person and your caregiver's your abuser, you're stuck. But you can still call hotlines. You can still learn tricks to take care of yourself, and just know that it's not your fault and you don't deserve it. Anybody who is being abused, they don't deserve it. And it is not your fault. And if you're in an abusive relationship, get a hold of this book and try to read it in secret if that's the only way you can do it. And the text can be pretty big, which I find is not so good, but I think that was a product of just the PDF file and the way it was converted. I don't know. But anyway, take care of yourselves out there, okay? Last night I did not go to sleep angry. That was the goal, and Laura was proud of me for that. Okay, I love you.